pass the torch to Patsy to introduce our speaker.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Lily. If you put your address, go online and say, who's my representative, put your address. Well, if you have to take it home, you have to mail it. Other than that, I had to look it up because I had to go vote. Please go vote, everybody. Please do. Okay. It gives me great pleasure to welcome my buddy Ken Butler and his lovely wife Teresa. We have traveled with them a couple of places, and we are going to continue to do that. When you have a guy that carries around a camera like this, like a baby, and he is one of the most considerate photographers I've ever traveled with, as far as bird photographers, because some of them step in front of you, and that's when they die. Okay. Ken never does that. He has sharp eyes. He has a great camera. He has a good eye for photos, and he always shares his photos with those of us who went on a trip with him. And so tonight he's agreed to come. Now he's a geologist type, retired, and lives out in Kendall County, and takes pictures mainly of birds, but also of other. He's a master naturalist. I don't know what class it was in.
38.
Huh?
38.
38, an Alamo Master Naturalist,
yes,
right? Okay. So he takes pictures of everything. He knows butterflies. He's just an all-around great naturalist. And tonight he's going to talk to you, those of you who like to take pictures. I've got a little old camera it's not piddly squat, but I know that if I had a few tips of how to work it a little bit better, I could take some better pictures. Mostly mine are saying it's a bird, not a dog, you know, that kind of thing. But Ken's are just beautiful. You'll get to see some of these. He also helped to illustrate a book of poetry. And the lady that did it was Lucy Griffith. And it was called Wingbeat Atlas. You can get that book on Amazon, I think. And it is a lovely portrayal of birds and how cool they are with Ken's pictures. And if you look at our plants for birds, all the pictures on the front of this were taken by somebody named Ken Butler. And they picture a native bird on a native plant. And so Ken's going to tell us how we can do great things. Hi there. Come on, have a seat. Going to tell us how we can all do that. So, but Ken, come on up and educate us. Thank you.
All right, good evening. When yeah. So if it doesn't, I'll just ask to advance. But when we go to the field today as birders, we've got a lot of tools that we bring with us. Of course, our optics, binoculars, scope. We carry, real powerful tools in our phones. We carry several at least I do. I have several guidebooks on here, comparative analysis apps for IDing photos, apps for bird calls and songs. So it really helps our obsession. Now, what I want to talk about tonight is one other tool that I know a lot of us use, a lot of people use, is a camera. And of course, it allows us to get photos that we can use for bird ID. Could you advance, please? Bird ID, document the rarity, allow us to, we're not going to advance that either. This is going to be an interesting talk. There we go. So we're able to, again, ID, rarities. It helps us with adding value to our eBird checklist. But I actually think most important when you work through, at least for me, you work through photos, you go, what's the ID, what it is, details, you learn. And then you fold back that into your birding skills. It helps us become a better birder. So the camera, I think, is one of one of the most valuable tools that we can have and use. My discussion tonight is dictated. I mean, it's within the context of the equipment that I have, but I think it's general enough that it'll apply to the context for any photo, for any camera, for any user. So for this system, let me try this again. Here we go. Was that you? Was that? Oh, here's the magic thing. I'm not going to hold this out here. So the camera I have, the camera body, is a Nikon D5. I had it for about 5 years. I'd like to upgrade, but I'm still talking my wife into it. And so y'all might help me with that. But this one I've had for 7 years. It's been rugged. It's been through a lot of abuse, and still going strong. It has a very large sensor, which is important to me for being able to blow it up and still get good detail on the bird that's out in the distance. The focus, the autofocus is very fast, continuous autofocus. I can follow things that are flying, and then fast continuous shooting, which is important in order to catch things in motion. As important is the lens. I use telephoto lens, 2 to 500. Usually it's extended out to 500 in order to catch the birds that are out there. I want to get as much detail as possible. A really important feature is the aperture, and it's unusual for a telephoto like this. I've got a maximum aperture of f5.6. What that means is it lets in a lot of light. It extends the usefulness of the camera getting photos into low light conditions, which seems to be where most of the birding is done. So the aperture, that maximum aperture, is very important in any camera system that you got. You want to be able to look at that. I do use a lens hood on this, primarily not so much to reduce flare around coming in, but to protect the front of the camera. This is the third one of these I've had. I have smashed 2 others, yet the front of the camera is still intact, so that works. The other is that when you're out in nasty weather, it's raining, drizzling, etc., it keeps that off the front of the lens and allows you to still get good photos. Now, the drawback for this is a great system. I just love it. I've really enjoyed it and have gotten a lot of value out of it. The thing is that it is heavy. It's bulky. It's 10 pounds. At the end of the day, it feels like 50. And so that's the thing about a weight. And a lot of people aren't going to want to carry this around with them. So there are other options. At the end of the discussion, we can talk about what some other options are available still of high quality. And we could also talk about what I'd like to get. And we can talk to my wife about it after we're through. Okay. Right. All right. The shutter speed. Whoops. Somewhere in here, but here we go. Let me come. So the photo of the hummingbird up there is just to stare at while I go into a nerd discussion about camera parameters. So you look at the photo and ignore me if you want. The camera mode that I use is manual. That is, as the user controls the shutter speed and also controls the aperture. So I go out with a set of basic camera settings that I set at a certain level at 1,000th of a second shutter speed, very fast. And I keep the aperture to start with out wide open at 5.6 in order to get the best control I have, particularly going into low light, excuse me. I record in RAW format, and by that I mean I record all the data off the sensor, no interpolation, no averaging, etc. It's like a digital negative, if you will. It's got all the data that comes off the sensor, and that's what I go into post-processing with. For long term, I save it in JPEG and other formats, and generally I could record in JPEG or what others normally use without losing anything. But on very low light, tough conditions, I found that the RAW format, I save color, save detail that I get out in photos that I don't get any other way. So the fast shutter speed, it allows eliminates the vibration and motion. As I'm out there I'm swinging the camera around, it's motion because I'm handheld. It's not on a tripod, and so I need something in order to freeze quickly, so I don't have any motion issues with the lens. The other, and probably the most important, is it freezes most bird motion. I enjoy photographing birds in flight and get a kick mostly when the birds start moving is when you start to try to take pictures and see what you get out afterwards. And in many cases, in birds in flight, you get looks at silhouettes, plumage distribution, bird characteristics that you don't get from just a perched bird. And also you get it frozen like this, that you're able to study and analyze it, it's just momentary in the field, but in a photo you get it longer, and again feeds back into the feedback loop of learning and becoming a better birder. Here's just cedar waxwings, and they're ones you can practice on because they've got a habit of coming out of the tree, going down the water, forward a little bit, come back up, so you can just follow them back and forth, and that's how I got this one. So I'm going to show you a few birds in motion because I like it so much. Here's red-winged blackbird. You can see the red shoulder patch, the red epaulets spread out that you don't get again if it's perched as much. The scissor-tailed flycatcher, see it's got the tail extended and it's out doing its acrobatics. Raptors are a favorite target for birds in motion. You got the kestrel. And this one is kiting into the wind, which is usually kestrel behavior, and it's out hunting and almost it can just hover in place. It's amazing to watch. Zone-tailed hawk, and see again extended wings. You get the distribution of the plumage and the fine detail you just don't get off of a perched bird. And this one's yeah, he's not very happy. He's looking right at me too. And ducks, waterfowl are an also favorite one as they're taking off or landing. And so you get the green-winged teal, so you got the brown rufous head with the green ear patch. It's just like it's a male green-winged teal. You get when it's just not perched, but it's just floating around in the water. But also you got the wings extended. You can see the plumage distribution on the wings, which are in terms of being able to recognize some of these birds. The females. Males often you can tell the females. Usually the lazy guy is that it's next to the male. I count it. But in flight, you get they repeat the wing epaulets, and you're able to often recognize it from there. The bufflehead the same way. You see the rounded head with the white patch on the back, but getting the black and white distribution of the plumage is of value. So fast shutter speed. Again, it controls the motion, but also I'm able to pretty much freeze the birds. Now for shutter speed, I very rarely, in fact, I've tried to stop hummingbirds with this, and that's just, it hadn't really worked out well. Generally, I will go slower. So here's some examples of where I will, under the conditions, try to help offset the lack of light by going to a slower shutter speed and still trying to get a decent photo. Photo on the left is a little spotted kiwi. This one's in New Zealand. These are threatened birds which are currently thriving, however, in protected areas, predator-free areas and islands in a couple of places in New Zealand. But this one was in a reserve near Wellington, near the capital of New Zealand, where they've got a predator-free reserve. It's got a predator-free guard all the way around it. So we were literally out there at midnight with red lights pulled around our head. We had earphones where a guide was whispering into, we weren't allowed to talk, not to disturb the birds. They didn't care. They were all around our feet. They come stare up at you, go around. So I was able to get the camera, put it on a the minimum focal length of 200, because the birds just right there, really slow the shutter speed down and literally take a photo in the dark. These are brown gray birds here, but it's in the red light because that's what we had available. So with that photo, and it's the only one I got of the kiwi on New Zealand, so it's valuable to me. And so it just shows you what you're able to do with the extent of the camera. Of course, the aperture was important, had it open wide, and also in post-processing and recording in RAW, and be able to recover things in terms of detail and color that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. The other one we got at Elf Owl. This is in southeast Arizona. This is side light from the flashlights that we had out there in terms of searching for the owls. And so took the exposure down to 1/500 because I still had the focal length is in maximum in order to get the picture of the owl. But not great. You're not going to want to hang it on your wall, but it's a good ID photo and record that get to carry away from the survey. All right, aperture. Now I come around, so I control shutter speed, talked about that a bit. Also, I control the aperture, and generally it's left at 5.6, wide open, 5.6, f5.6, it's letting in the most light. Now what that means is I've got a wide aperture, it's a narrow depth of field. And by that means it's the zone within which the bird, your subject, is in focus, and it's out of focus in front of that depth of field, it's out of focus behind it. And so here's golden-cheeked warbler. And so the bird's in sharp focus, behind it, it goes out of focus very quickly, and you get this blurry, creamy background that I think is of high value for bird or any wildlife photography, because you really emphasize the bird, sharp, in focus, you hope you get it right, and you got that nice creamy blurry background behind it. Same thing in northern Parula. You see that some of that it's blurry in front because this depth of field is often for this large an aperture, it's a fairly narrow window. It gets bigger as you go further away. Sometime I'll use this for butterfly or dragonfly surveys. I've got a minimum focal distance of about 7 feet. It has to be 7 feet away or further in order to focus. The depth of field there for 5.6 is like an inch. So I actually have to go to a higher f-stop in order to get a whole dragonfly in focus. So here, very narrow depth of field, very blurry background, but generally that's great. For wildlife photography, birds, it works out well. There's some cases though where you want to go to a tighter, you go to a higher aperture, a higher number, tighter, letting less light, but you end up lengthening that depth of field or the area that's in focus. So here's an example of one where got a lagoon full of flamingos, and I've got 5.6. So you see how the front end of the lagoon of the flamingos is in focus, but it goes rapidly out of focus as you go in distance and pretty much out of focus while you get to the end of it. But if I tighten up the aperture, go to, in this case, f14, I get a reasonable focus for the entire lagoon, which I think makes for a superior photo. Although in this case, I'm not going back, the one that's blurred in the background can be useful as well. If you change, you can also change, I can put the where it's in focus in the middle, in the back. But here, I'm able to get a decent depth of field for the entirety of the photo. So here's another example, black-bellied whistling duck. And so mama duck's in focus there in the foreground, and by extending the depth of field, I'm able to get the ducklings in fairly sharp focus as well. Now again, here's a couple of birds. This is just to look at while I talk about the nerd details of the use of the camera. So there are a couple of toucans, one in Colombia, one in Panama. But is the autofocus system. So I let the camera do a lot of work. The autofocus on this is just phenomenal. And from what I can read in reviews is that the camera I'd like to get, I'm talking my wife into, is even faster, better, more accurate, more flexible than what I've got on here. But this one, it allows for tracking. It gets on when I select something. You get on and focus very quickly, so that rapidity is very important. It's the Nikon system has about 100 options for tracking, for putting points together, for different types of focusing options. I have experimented with every one of them. And I've come back to where I use just the smallest area that I can use right in the center of the camera. It appears on my viewfinder, and I just put it on the eye of the bird, and it works out great. I'm able to track it around and follow either in motion, or I've got a bird and a bunch of brambles in order to focus on it. So in addition, I use back button focusing. This is something that's on the Nikon. All the Nikon system cameras have it. Canon does as well, Sony and others. I programmed, there's a button on in fact, this one right here, the button on the back that I use to focus. It disconnects the focus from the shutter. So the shutter, the focus doesn't happen. It doesn't occur with the shutter anymore. It's just the back button focus. I hit that button, it focuses. I can follow the bird, and if I'm pressing the button, it'll continue to focus as we go along. When I release the button, it locks that focus. No matter, I can keep taking pictures the whole time, and that will not influence the focus at all. So think of this back, and it's a common term, back button focusing. Is, if you don't do it, it's something I really recommend as a tool, as an approach with a camera. It takes a little different muscle memory if you've gotten used to the focus coming off of the shutter, but it really allows a lot more control and flexibility in the field for taking photos. I get the next slide. Here we are. So this one, again, talking about, I use a very tight autofocus window, just a few points in the center in order to actuate the focus and that I concentrate on. So I'm able to follow birds in a bramble. In this case, I've got yellow-billed cuckoos, and you see all the bramble that's in front out of focus and in back, but the bird is sharp. And so I basically center on the bird or center on his eye. You get the bird in focus with that narrow depth of field and other stuff out of focus. So again, these aren't photos you're going to hang on your wall, but you're still getting a good photo of the bird, good photo of its plumage characteristics, silhouette, plumage distributions, learn from it, post with it, a good record of what you've gotten in the field. So, and the thing is, you get that rarity, you get that harpy eagle that you find in your backyard, that's going through the bramble. You don't move the tight, focus in on the bird and follow it through, and you get a record of that rarity. The fast tracking, again, is birds in motion, and able to follow and continually focus as you follow the bird, allows you to capture birds in motion. And so here we've got flamingos running, a coot running. They're cool. If you watch coots, they don't just fly. They just seem to run along the water with those fibrous paws that they have. There's the drongo with the wings extended. So it's an interesting light situation because I'm getting a silhouette look. And then, of course, the hooded mergansers, same. Speak louder. Okay, sorry. The hooded merganser is this about to, it's either about to take off, it's takeoff, not landing, it's about to take off in that photo. So here with the this continuous focus tracking is critical, but getting the birds in motion is of high value in terms of looking at the distribution of plumage, color, silhouette. You'll learn a lot from the photos. Now, let me back up here. Here we go. You look at these photos, the flamingos and the mergansers have got nice, those are clear skies, good direct light on the birds, good contrast, color illumination. But you look at the coot, that's a cloudy day. It's a backlit day. That one's almost like black and white. Just look at the difference in the color of the water. And then the same thing with the drongo there in Bhutan. That picture is almost a silhouette through. I'm looking at light through the wings. Otherwise, it'd be a very dark bird. I'd be just getting the silhouette from it. So out in the field, the lighting conditions, and all of us talk about the fact, well, that bird's backlit. I don't know what the hell it is. So photography is the same way as you look at it. And if there are ways you can you can do some things in the field to help compensate for that. In terms of over or under exposure in the field, to give a little better start on the photo before you take it any further. So your basic rule is sun behind you, bird in front. Now, a lot of times the birds aren't cooperative. What do you do? What do you do when the sun and the bird are in the same place? Generally the best thing you can do is ask the bird politely to stay put while you walk around and get the bird in a better position. There are some cases where having the sun and the bird in front of you can give interesting photos. Here's the one with the turkey vulture with the wings extended. The sun's right behind the bird's in front, so you get that through light on it. And so it's interesting. You're able to see you're able to see the turkey vulture. You got the red head. You got the distribution of the light cream white on the bird. And so you don't ever give up. There's some cases where the silhouette, with the way the sun's coming through, it can be of value. However, for different days, that especially where you've got a light, you've got a hazy conditions, or even really socked in and very strong lack of light, there are some things you can do in the field with the camera in terms of overexposure, underexposure, that can help produce a better photo. And so I change the camera exposure, and I'll do that a lot. Change the camera exposure to help compensate for backlighting conditions in overcast days. Now, just real quick, I'll use this term, or use EV stops, and it is exposure value. So one EV, it's kind of a mystical thing within the camera, but all of your cameras will use EV stops up or down. And then one EV stop up indicates a doubling of brightness. So I'm going to use kestrels here the whole time to show for examples. Here's a base case where I've got clear skies, and so the basic camera exposure where I use it, again, just like the focus, use a tight window for exposure to focus, to have the bird dominate it, but it's still, if it's backlit, you're just going to get a dark bird, just like you see it on a day when you're looking at it through your binoculars. But open skies, nice light, you get that uniform light on it, beautiful color, beautiful detail, and all that works out well. The only downside here is the shadows. You see the shadows on the birds. This may be a picky point, but you can see the shadows that can lessen the value, make it a little more difficult in order to see the color, the markings, the distribution. So here is a light to moderate overcast, still working with kestrels. And so I will hit an overexposure up about one stop in order to, it starts to blow out the background. It looks wider, more bright than it does in the field, but the bird it overexposes on the bird that otherwise would be darker. And what's interesting is, particularly look at the one on the left, there's no shadows. And so the diffuse light that you get from a light overcast day can sometimes give you very good results. by virtue of taking the shadows out of it. Some of the best photos, especially when it's a little further, you're not looking up in the sky, but it's down. Taking the shadows out of the photos really can be of value. And then you have the really strong backlit conditions with heavy overcast, and we'll crank it up to 2 EV stops in order to try to bring the bird into better exposure. You can see now they're looking a little more washed out, a little dirtier looking, but it's still, you can recognize it's kestrel, and you can see the distribution in the characteristics. You see the one on the right has caught himself lunch. And I believe it's a little barring on the tail. There's a white eyebrow, and it's the white underneath. I believe he caught himself a Buick's wren. Yeah, it was just a little slow on the uptake. Now, occasionally, the bird is brighter than the background, and so you need to go the other way with the exposure compensation. And this is one with an egret with a dark background. Early morning, is River Road Park in Bernie, and at regular photo, I took a photo and looked at it. I mean, the bird was just a white blur. You could tell maybe it was an egret, but it was just a white blob, and really had to step it down in order to put some detail into the bird. But I think some of these, when you get these situations, and they're a lot more uncommon than the backlit situations, they can be quite striking. Here you've got this very, very dark background. It's on this tree root down there in the water, with just a beautiful setting for the bird. Okay, again, a couple of photos to look at just to keep you interested. Laughing thrush from Thailand, and then the Himalayan monal from Bhutan. There were no colors that weren't on that bird. The photo really doesn't do it justice, but just a beautiful bird. But yes, I do what I think is a minimal amount of post-processing. I've got the photos, taken them in, and so do some things in order to best prepare them for posting or for other usage. What do I do most? I delete. I just go through, and the things I don't like and then experimented with, you just get rid of. That's the power of the digital photography. I have enjoyed photography since I was in high school. That was before digital was in place. I had a hard time going from film to digital, but now, I mean, it's just wonderful. You just click, and you just collect all of them in. You get rid of most of them, and then save the ones that you think are best. And there's always some surprises in there that you manage to catch. Now, I crop the photo almost always. I think that many cases, as photographers, we could often do a better job of framing that picture in terms of how best do we want, what sort of message, what sort of photo do we want to put out there. And then I'll occasionally work to brighten the photo, because you get a lot of dark photos. And this is where the recording in RAW is of value, because it's got color and detail that I can pull out. In many cases, if you've got something that's underexposed, you can often repair it. You can pull it out. If you overexpose it, if you peg up there against the white edge of it, you're hoaxed. I mean, you've lost the data, it's gone. But if you've underexposed, you can often do something with it. Once I'm through with any post-processing, I save the photos in a JPEG format, which is the most popular photo format. It's got some compression, some interpolation, averaging, So it gets to be much smaller files. All of the photos that are posted on this presentation are from JPEG. I use a junior version of Adobe Photoshop, the Elements, which just has basic processing steps with it that allow me to do the simple things I want to do. So crop. This is it's a decent photo of a chipping sparrow. And it's overcast day, by the way, no shadows, etc. So, but chipping sparrow. And so you see a lot of people can just take it and post that, but I would contend that it's worth taking some step to, either with a large crop or a tight crop, is crop the photo, and that's what you save and use. And now cropping, it takes a little bit of thought sometimes. You want to show some habitat. I'm probably at fault. I probably use a tight crop too much. And the one that the larger crop, where you can see what's around the bird, is of value as well. So, but the cropping step is worth putting some thought into. You can recover detail in a useful photo from dark photos. Now this is a jungle babbler. It's the only one, you may have seen another, but it's the only one I got a photo of in Bhutan. We were coming out of our hotel, and it was dark, and so this was just light from the hotel and parking area as we were about to leave out for the day's surveying. I did take the exposure, the shutter speed down to 500th of a second from 1,000, but because I still had the focal length at 500, so I couldn't go down really any further. Recorded in RAW, and we're able to produce a decent photo of the jungle bat. It's still not great. It wouldn't have been not as good as if you'd had it out in clear sky days, but a reasonable record of having seen and observed the bird. So here are a couple more examples where it's really this is where we're in Panama, and literally we're in the jungle, and it could be midday, bright sun, no clouds, but you're in the jungle, it's dark, and that seems to be where most of the birds want to be. And we're down, and you get photos, and this is one where I really couldn't do much. I had the wide open aperture, of course, but I still had the fast speed and 500 millimeters because that was the situation in trying to capture the birds. But with the raw recording and with a bit of post-processing, you can bring out, again, some color in detail that's in those recorded in with the dark records. And you get the spotted antbird and the fasciated image behind. That is a really cool looking bird, the fasciated ant shrike. You get one that, especially if you can get him out where he's not got a vine in front of him and a little better color. But they're just some beautiful birds out in there, and they're just really worth the effort and time in order to try to get records of them. So, and so now that we're all experts on lighting conditions, you see the Harris's hawk's on an open, clear skies, open. You can see the shadows, but still fast shutter speed, wide open aperture in order to capture the motion of the bird. Scissor-tail flycatcher is on a lightly overcast day, but still somewhat backlit. You got a bit of a silhouette going on. The black-throated sparrows in Big Bend, that was, again, mildly overcast day. Great photo results by virtue of not having the shadows. In some cases, the sort of you get richer colors by not having as much light. So it's like whatever nature throws at you, and wherever the birds are, there are opportunities to make something out of it. Now, what's the best camera? what's the best camera? Yeah, it happens to be whatever you're willing to carry around with you all day. Some of the best photos I've gotten of quail in West Texas, I got with a cell phone. And so use the optics on your cell phone to get photos. You will be surprised of what you can do with it. One thing I would mention, a good birders camera, and I don't want to get into trouble for mentioning a particular line or whatever, but the Nikon Coolpix camera set. A number of people, a number of friends I have use them and get awesome photos with them. It's lighter, quicker, easier to use, and so I think it's a good option. What would I use today? If I were allowed to go buy one, I would go to a mirrorless. This one is this one's got a prism and a mirror, so when you look through the viewfinder, you're seeing out through the lens, so you are actually seeing in the viewfinder what the camera's seeing, what's in front of you. There are mirrorless cameras now that are actually getting to be the high-end cameras for Nikon, for Canon, that eliminate the mirror. They're smaller, they're lighter. You get one that's actually it's faster. It's got double the sensor size, and then there's the fixed. They've also got lenses that tie in with them. I can get a fixed 600 millimeter lens. Put those together, and it's half the weight of this. Half the weight. Well, half. It's like 5.5 pounds versus 10. So it's a very as I get older, that has an attraction to itself as well. So so yeah, talk to my wife. Get her to let me do this. But so again, the best camera is the one that you can take to the field with you. It's a privilege to talk to you tonight, and I hope to see everybody in the field. I think we might have time for some questions. But
Oh, I'm not going to be carrying around a 10-pound camera, but what's your storage capacity on this Nikon? I mean, digitally, how much information can you capture?
how big's the sensor?
The
card. I can try I have the raw format. I've got these. I'm going to describe the card name. It's a large card that goes in on the side, and I can store about 2,800 photos in the large raw format. And what I do is I take them and try to it on daily just to keep up with them, because Patsy knows we were in Colombia. The birds, there was like a new bird everywhere. I was taking 1,500 to 1,800 photos a day. So I'd take those off and just download them to the computer, and then I'd do a few days of that and erase the card and start over. So it's got good. I can go several days without having to worry about if I filled the card up or not.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation with beautiful photos. R5 shooter, could you please discuss how to improve capturing photos of birds in flight, your panning technique?
That's hard to. There's situations the birds, like, for example, the cedar waxwings. They're going up, they're going down. You're able to anticipate, and you can follow them going up and down, so you can kind of get to sync with it, and you're able to get the bird in. You get the bird in directly. There are cases when you look at waterfowl, again with some of the photos. you can just tell when they're coming in for a landing, they're about to take off. You can get them in motion. Our raptors are actually fairly straightforward. You see them up, they're circling. The kestrel is kiting, and so you can get motion. You can actually get out in front and follow those birds around fairly easily. The other things I could say it is you start to see I start to see scissor-tail flycatchers fussing with each other and moving around. I just start snapping pictures. You just follow them up, maybe back off the focal length so you've got a little wider area so that the bird can have some motion to it and still be within the frame, and just snap pictures. So there's no one simple solution. It's just taking advantage of what you know about the bird and also the particular situation in order to get them in motion.
We have another question online. Do you use auto ISO? If so, what is your upper limit before you reduce shutter speed? Does that make sense?
No, I do not use auto ISO. I let the ISO floats. Basically if you've ever done film, you could buy slow film, fast film. So low ISO is slow film, fast ISO as you get faster, it gets to be grainier. The ISO floats. I do pay attention to it. I try to get the ISO as low as possible so that you get as quality a photo as possible. But generally, I let it float, and then the camera does whatever it needs to do in order to get the photo. So I don't set limits.
Okay.
What's that? No, I like to get it down to 150 to 200 if I can. But there are times, like some of those dark photos, it's cranking high. And that's one thing about the digital is you could go to some insane levels of ISO. They look very and they're very grainy. It's not using all the elements, but you can still get a reasonable photo from it. These things can take with the digital. You can take pictures in the dark that you literally couldn't do with film.
Okay, I have one more question. Can you discuss differences between Elements and Lightroom?
I have no idea. I have Lightroom, I think it's going to be more sophisticated. The Adobe Photoshop Elements is just a cribbed version. Lightroom would be for more complex if you wanted to create photo, do special things with it, which I don't mess with. The Elements I had to pay for. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some free ones from the companies and like Nikon or yeah.
Yeah, a lot of what the simple processing stuff is either very cheap or free. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do the basics. Okay, so
all right.
Thank you, Ken, and take lots of pictures. Take lots of pictures. Take lots.